Hello and welcome to Counterpressed on The Ringer and Spotify. I'm in the studio with Jessy Humphreys and Becky Taylor-Gill. On today's show, we preview a huge weekend in the WSL as Manchester United host Chelsea and Manchester City take on Arsenal. Becky, we haven't talked to you about the new studio yet.
Guys.
Oh.
Yeah, I've not. It's really nice. I really especially love Kate.
Yeah.
We should actually bring her down and have her on the sofa next to us.
That's so true. We can ask her for her takes.
And I brought something with me that a lovely listener bought for me. All the
So
way from
nice.
New York.
Amazing.
Incredible. I was showing my boss at work, Ellie the elephant, yesterday because he had never
Just as a
watched her
concept.
performed. So
What
Wow.
an icon. I'm going to put her up.
Go put her
I might
up
bring
now.
Kate down back with me and hug her for the whole time.
Yeah, I think it was lovely Hallie that brought that over. Hallie of Boiled Noggin fame designed our Boiled Noggin emoji and t-shirts and stickers.
Oh, wow. That's
And
so nice.
sent
That's
me-
so comforting.
And now Becky has her a Kate Longhurst comfort blanket.
Yeah, that's really nice.
oh, it's actually creepy when you see it.
It
that
is really
close.
creepy. That close is
I'm
quite
gonna
creepy.
I'm gonna put her here. She can stay with me.
It's actually terrifying.
Oh, I was like, there's like one ear. It's really creepy, but I love it.
Careful, because you might take it home. It might disappear.
Shall we get others made of us and Chile?
How do you do it? Is it? I presume there's just some website and that does it
Surely
for
West Ham didn't make that.
No,
He's official West Ham.
we know it was from a fan, so maybe the fan can send us a
Because I
link.
want like a Chelsea one.
What
Because
we-
Chelsea do make them. Or like, no, because I got my sister a Cole Palmer one for Christmas.
I was going to ask you about that. You famously got that Cole Palmer
But that
one.
wasn't from Chelsea, that was from a website.
Oh.
But I didn't make it, they just had Cole Palmer
Right.
as an option.
I want to get one of Jilly.
Yeah, I'd like
We need
one
a
of
Jilly one as well.
Okay, we'll look into it.
Yeah.
And I also think one of each of us.
Yeah.
And they could sit all in the middle.
Yeah.
Shall I be
No, it's
wearing a
just
Chelsea
whoever's-
shirt
whoever's
because
not
of
on
my
it.
my
Your
shortcut
Do you
career?
want to explain this?
So, my partner the other day was like, "Have you ever looked yourself up on Reddit?" And I was like, "No."
Also, sorry, just the worst idea
Yeah,
I
really
could
bad,
possibly
really
think
bad.
of having, but
But it's funny because it's not as if you were Googling yourself. It's very niche.
Yeah.
And what came back is even more interesting.
It's so funny. So what I think has happened is because the only thing that I could find actually on Reddit that was to do with me was somebody had like taken my tweet about Emma Hayes player relationships and put it in a thread to talk about. And then so there was this option on Reddit to like do like a AI like who is this person? And I might read some of it out because it does just get like so funny. Becky Taylor-Gill football. Becky Taylor-Gill is a former professional footballer who played as a defender. They got that part right. Taylor-Gill played for Chelsea women and Reading women. The quote, technically unproven, but pretty widely known.
Well, also, I think because there was a player at Reading called Becky Jane or Becky
Yeah,
something.
Becky Jane played
yeah,
for Reading.
Becky Jane played
Maybe
for
that's
Reading.
why.
well,
So
but
I
the
think
Reading
it
thing-
thinks you're Becky Jane,
Yeah.
and then because of the Emma Hayes tweet, it thinks you played at Chelsea.
or that you're Becky Spencer.
Maybe.
Oh, true.
I
Yeah.
retired from professional football in 2016 due to persistent injuries, if anybody was wondering. My
But-
favourite bit then is, so there's like career and then a second subheading, relationship with Emma Hayes. There were rumours of...
Also, just full disclosure, in case we get sued for libel, this is AI.
This is not
error.
real.
This is not real.
Becky has never claimed she had a relationship with Emma Hayes.
Okay, maybe I was about to reveal something. There were rumours of a relationship between Taylor-Gill and Chelsea manager Emma Hayes. This is a quote that's in the...
This is why, guys. This is why I hate AI.
I think this quote is a comment on the Reddit thread about the player relationships. Just sent you a PM. Don't want to be spreading unfounded rumours on a wider basis.
Oh my god, so good.
So I'm really sorry that I didn't tell you guys any of this sooner. I just thought I'd come on today and like get it off my chest.
Counterpress exclusive. Moments like that do really make me feel good about how we can't trust AI and AI can't solve all our problems. So there you go. It is a huge weekend in the WSL. We have been blessed by the fixture gods. So let's preview that big weekend next. So let's start on Friday night. Manchester United taking on Chelsea live on the BBC, 7:30 p.m.
Friday night WSL.
Friday night
So good.
WSL
Delicious.
and Friday night LSV, which is very fun.
Sorry. Progress
Oh.
with Unity Stadium.
Sorry, the woke stadium. I will never refuse to
Will
call it that.
wokeness win? This is the thing. Will they get better playing at LSV, formerly LSV, now the Woke Stadium?
I'm so excited to see what Progress with Unity looks like. What does it come from?
It's something to do with Wigan Council that did
Okay.
it. So it's a council directive.
To the Council of Woke.
Because
And
what's annoying me is I feel like it should be, I keep calling it Progress through Unity. Like together we make
Is
progress.
it grammatically incorrect? Is the
Progress
question.
with Unity.
Well, someone on Twitter pointed out that appears on the Wigan Athletic badge. So it must be a mantra
it's like
of Wigan.
It's like a
Right.
Wigan thing.
But obviously, for Manchester United fans, they're saying, well, we ain't Wigan.
Can I just ask what you think the least woke stadium in the WSL is?
Totally
Totally
wicked.
wicked.
I knew
Vape
that's
company.
exactly what I was
Wicked.
thinking.
No
That's exactly what I was
brainer.
thinking.
Totally Wicked
And you
is
know
a vape
what?
company.
That's what I love. My football team, not got any woke nonsense
woke.
going on.
Who else isn't woke? No, that probably is. There aren't many other
Branded.
sponsor. Obviously, there's the Joy. That's not woke.
No,
No.
that's, it's like more woke than not woke.
Yeah, it's more woke than not woke.
Well, because it's
but-
like mums and babies. So,
Yeah.
That's it, really.
Love my non-woke club.
Chigwell Construction.
Oh,
not woke.
that's not woke.
Yeah,
Not
true.
woke.
For sure.
That'll
That's
always
more
have
not
a
woke
heart.
than totally wicked, actually.
Do you think?
Yeah,
No,
I think so.
Totally
Yeah,
Wicked. It's literally a vape company,
It's
Becky.
a construction company.
In Chigwell.
Yeah, but it's serving the community. It's constructing things.
vape's
It's
not serving the
builders.
community.
No. Okay, so on Monday's show, we talked a fair bit about Manchester United. We also talked a fair bit about Arsenal. So I wanted, when we preview this weekend, we will obviously talk about those teams, but talk about some of the teams we didn't discuss. So let's start with Chelsea, because Jessy, it's actually been a while since we've had you on, because you're on your hollybobs. So there's been a lot of angst, I'd say, from Chelsea fans online, despite their perfect start to the season. And yes, some of these performances I will also agree with. We were at Kings Meadow for that Leicester game. It was not particularly
Stinky.
entertaining.
Stinky.
And I know,
Stinky.
you went to that Villa game and
That was stinky.
that was also stinky. So there's good reason why Chelsea fans are a little bit stressed, but obviously other fans will probably look at that perfect start and say, well, you've got all that and not played very well. But give us some context of why this game is really huge for Chelsea off the back of that run.
Yeah, well, I think, I understand why Chelsea fans feel frustrated, and I think it is sometimes easy to look at the table and be like, oh, but you've won everything. But it's like, if you're watching those performances and you're getting away with stuff, especially say the Leicester game, which they only won 1-0, and you're giving up chances, then you're like, well, this can't go on. Equally, the Villa game, they could have been
Can't go on like this.
yeah, but
It can.
they could have been 3-0 down at half time. And so for example, the West Ham one, again, they gave up chances, but they'd obviously scored 3 goals in 15 minutes, so it didn't feel as worrying that was the case. And I actually asked Sonia yesterday, because all of their defensive numbers are 30% down on last year in terms of the number of shots they're conceding. I guess 30% up. They're conceding more shots, more XG, more passes into final third. And Sonia's response was basically I don't give a shit about defending. That was the energy she gave.
To paraphrase.
Yeah, she didn't. That's not a direct quote, but that was kind of the energy
Do it
she
in French.
was giving.
Defending.
Defend. Yeah. So she basically said that she would prefer to have the team be proactive and going forward in attack. And I will say, against Villa in particular, that definitely felt true. Chelsea put up a lot of XG in that game, despite conceding it. I didn't feel like that was necessarily the case against Leicester. But ultimately, Chelsea do have 12 points from 4 games. I think what will be interesting about Friday is United, I would say, have looked pretty good. They've looked pretty solid. They are not really giving much away. I think they've conceded 1 goal this season. So it will be interesting, I think, in terms of if Chelsea are going to concede as many opportunities as they have against the smaller sides, then I kind of feel like United have a good opportunity there. I think what we'll see about Sonia's approach to defending is is she being willing to give up more in those games against smaller teams because she feels confident they will score? And will she rein that back in against a side that are maybe more likely to take advantage of those chances?
And the big question is the back three. Because it's not been something that...
Just like a long sigh.
There was a big
Okay,
sigh.
no, but the reason I'm sighing is because I feel like back threes really prompt like a lot of ideological feeling in people, and it does not prompt ideological feeling in me. Like, I'm quite easy about back three, back four. I think it depends a little bit who you're playing there, but if you're playing a back three against West Ham and your wing backs are Alyssa Thompson and your Hannah and Cannerid, like, that's a pretty attacking way of setting up, in my opinion, even if you've got three centre-backs there. And the way Chelsea have been using Viola Berman over the past couple of weeks, she kind of feels more like a quasi-left-back. She really likes to step out with the ball. She's looked really, really good, I think. So to me, that's like, it doesn't really feel like I think people imbue it with a negativeness that doesn't always bear out with the reality on the pitch.
I think it's two things. It's the fact that it's a change and the performances haven't been great. So obviously we did see it last season, but most of the season was a back four and the performances haven't been great. So then people want to look at something to try and explain that. And then one of the things we talked about at the Leicester game was the principle, and playing a back three is fine, but the wing backs have to be the right wing backs and you have to use that advantage of having them higher up the pitch. And that wasn't quite working against Leicester, and obviously it's not going to work in every single game. What we saw Chelsea able to do with Ellie Carpenter against City on that opening day, that was kind of a part of a City issue, and City didn't change it fast enough with the space that Carpenter was getting, Alex Greenwood struggling, etc. Other teams, they can set up to counter that if they know it's coming, especially. So I guess it's not just the fact that there is a back three, but more, is it the most effective choice?
Well, I think what I would say is some Chelsea fans' concern is that the back three isn't something that's being used to, say, maximise the players that Chelsea have available, but that is being used to protect a certain player. And I think the concern is that maybe the feeling is that Millie Bright needs to now play in a back three to have the kind of protection around her, in terms of, because she's just looked so off the pace, I think, this season. Like, she made Rico Ueki look like prime martyr at points at the Chigwell Construction Stadium, which was quite bizarre. I like Rico Ueki, but come on.
I like the way you full named the Chigwell Construction Stadium with your pot noodle in hand.
I did have a delicious pot noodle at half time.
What flavour?
Chicken and mushroom. It was yummy, and I got chips as well. Treating myself. I was quite hungover from the Rugby World Cup final. So I think that is also then seen as a bit of a frustration. And then I guess your question is also, does Bonpastor really think she needs Millie Bright in the team? Is she concerned about Millie Bright's performances? Like, I don't really know the answer to those questions, and I don't think she'd really give you a straight answer anyway. I do think there's sort of a level of physicality that Bright brings, which I can see as being an asset. She's obviously the club captain. I also wonder if there's a feeling of like, she's not in great form now, but the better option is to try and play her into form. All of those questions, I think, are like interesting questions to pose, and I don't have the answer to. But I think that's some of where the back three concern comes from, is like, are we playing this way to make up for like inadequacies that could be fixed if you just said, fuck it, you bench Millie, you play Bjorn and Berman together, and you play a four.
And maybe that time will come. Maybe she'll be forced to do that at some point.
Well, and also, obviously, Naomi Gurma's disappeared, as Chelsea players are wont to do, which also doesn't help.
We're still yet to see any real specific timeline as well on Kadisha Buchanan's return. What was the latest on that? It's all very mysterious.
Don't know where. She was spotted in the gym with LJ and Gurma.
Spotted.
Were you there with binoculars?
Yeah, just the like mysterious trio that no one knows when they will return from the war.
Becky, we talked with Gillian and Kate on Monday about Manchester United's really good start to the season. And I think what has probably been an advantage, but also as a disadvantage in some ways, is they played more games than everyone else because they had Champions League qualifying. So if you're playing high-level competitive games against tough opposition in all of those qualifiers, it does get you into more of a rhythm come this point in the season. I've been really impressed with them. I thought the draw they got home against Arsenal, I think Arsenal weren't great in that game, but that was a really positive result for Manchester United, especially off the back of having a 3 games in less than 2 weeks because of the qualifiers. So to have that result and to be in the position that they're in, I think what we said on Monday was this kind of overshadowing thing about their squad in Europe. But take that out, and you have to kind of really give them credit for how they started this season.
Yes, I do think that with United, I am of the opinion of like, I don't trust you yet. You have not built my trust. You have not performed well enough for long enough. You have not proved to me that you will welcome Chelsea and get a result. I just, like, when Jessy was speaking then, I was thinking about it. And I said this 100 times, and I don't know why it just continues, that Chelsea women and Liverpool men seem to have, like, just the same trajectory. And it's the same kind of thing of, like,
the inevitability of it, sort of thing.
I believe we're yet to lose to Galatasaray.
We have been stinky in the league, but we have, apart from Palace, like, got results. And I currently, even though Chelsea have been stinky and United have been good, I still can't see them
the records
getting a win.
The records show that Chelsea have a really good record against Manchester United, really outside of that FA Cup semi-final a few seasons ago. So they're a good reason to think that. The issue for United is with already this lighter squad, they still have these injury issues that won't go away, like players that are coming back from long-term injuries, like Leah Galton, Simi Awuju's still working her way back. Millie Turner's now out until the new year. That's a huge miss. So Skinner's shown that he can work with a smaller squad, and I think they're in a really good place. The addition of Zigiota Oma and Jess Park, I think, has really transformed that midfield, and United fans are really excited about that. I think we'll really get a good idea of how good this United team are on Friday night. That is going to be the true test. And then what's tough for them is they've then got to start their Champions League campaign. But they've got Vålerenga that's probably a nice way to warm up. But Jessy, it does feel like this is kind of going to be the real test for them.
Looking at United's squad, I just find it hard to imagine they're going to be able to compete at the very top of the league throughout the season. We've seen it with City before, like when you add these Champions League games, and United have also never done this before, it really takes a lot out of players. You know, this isn't like the Conti Cup Subway Cup, the artist formerly known as the Conti Cup.
Dead naming.
Where you can like put a load of academy players out, which also is something Skinner seems very reticent to do generally. He doesn't seem to like trusting young players. So I think on a long-term view, United just don't have the number of players who are going to be able to make them compete across all of these 4 fronts. But in terms of this game, I think the other thing that's interesting is this is their second of their home games against the other 3 teams of the top 4. Obviously, they've already played Arsenal at home. They've got a point. And this is where you do need to really pick up points because, you know, you've got to think you're probably going to struggle to get points or maximum points in those away games, even if you maybe win 1 of 3, let's say. So I do think the kind of pressure is on United to get at least a result. And I think, you know, maybe for United, as you kind of mentioned, Flo, having Arsenal and Chelsea at home so early on in the season is a bit of an advantage, given that they feel very in their rhythm, whereas maybe both Chelsea and Arsenal, you've seen that they're still sort of adjusting to the new season and new players and what they want to do with the way they set up. So to that extent, it does feel like maybe United need to really press home the point and get as many points as they can now before the inevitable injury crisis happens.
It does feel very similar to what has happened to City in similar.
It's just very hard to have a squad
European
which
campaigns.
basically genuinely is like 15 players, and then go and you know, for United as well, their Champions League thing is arguably harder this year in terms of if you're playing different teams and we don't really know how the league phase is gonna
because you're playing more games as well.
Well, you're not playing more games. It's still 6 games, right? But whereas before maybe you would understand, I think, quite easily where you were in your group and where you could maybe drop points. I think it becomes a lot harder and you have to set up for 6 different teams. Whereas obviously before, like even if you get one game against a really good team, like let's say City against Barcelona, obviously, you can you're game planning sort of twice. For,
my point was not more games, it's more teams.
Yeah, which I do think is...
Whereas, if you know you're playing Vålerenga twice, you're like, oh, we're playing Vålerenga twice.
I think that's psychologically harder to prepare, and I think that that is going to do something different.
What's good for them is that they don't know any different in the Champions League.
Yes.
It's not a transition into something else, it's just like this is new.
They can also maybe rely on other teams shitting the bed. That's kind of the interesting thing, I guess, about the league phase is, whereas before, if you're in a group and say everyone in your group is performing really well, you might want to go, look at Real Madrid, they're like totally flaming out, but like we're not getting any benefit of that because they're in a different group. Whereas obviously the nature of the league phase means that's that kind of thing. If other teams are doing badly, that could benefit you because you're going to have to pick up less points.
Jess sent in a question, and judging by her picture, she's a Man City fan. It's more of a statement than a question. Fans aren't happy, players playing out of position, performances cruising in second gear, yet still winning. When will their reign of terror end? Which is very true. And that evil cackle from Jessy, I think, speaks volumes. And, it's been an interesting narrative for, Wrighty was talking about it after the Arsenal draw with Villa, right? That is what a team of Chelsea's experience and quality and what they did last season, that's kind of what happens. And that can be the difference for a team like Manchester United when they're in that new environment. Because even if Chelsea aren't playing that well, they will probably win the majority of their Champions League games. That Barcelona game is going to be very interesting. But they can do that. That's just their experience.
It's one of those where if they win the league, you look back at the end of the year and you go, well, that's what champions do. They're stinky and they get wins.
I think it's true but I think winning begets winning, and that's almost the advantage Chelsea have going into every season, is because that whole team are constant winners. There are players in that team who've won the WSL 6 years in a row. That's crazy. There is a level of, I think, self-belief that even when they're playing badly, that they can still go on and get a result. I also think the other thing is they still have an advantage in that they have been the longest proponent of, I think, having a really, really big squad. And I think Arsenal have done this or moved towards this more recently, but I still feel like Slagers is...
I'm going to stop you there because we're going to get into our Arsenal chat after this. Jessy Humphreys is dying to talk about Renee Slagers. So I'll let you pick up because we had to do an ad break, so go.
Okay. That I feel like Slagers is still adjusting, or, she seems to have her favourites, or players are getting used to more rotation because we have seen more rotation in attack. But then you're in a position whereby those players maybe aren't as familiar with each other because it feels like we've seen about 4 different attacks from, I don't actually have the stats, it might just be 3 different attacks, but setups from Arsenal in 4 games, which I think makes teams disjointed. I think the unfortunate thing for Arsenal, but also maybe a bit of a question mark, is I think Chelsea have done this in the past, and you take a risk and you maybe drop points, and Chelsea have kind of also done that, so far this season, but they've managed to make it work. I think sometimes long term that can be for good, to have got players used to each other. But Arsenal's position now, obviously, with this game against City is everything now but in the league becomes must win once you've dropped points in 2 games.
Yeah, there's such a catch-22 about all of the situation now with Arsenal, because if you start the season really well, having these players in rhythm that you haven't made that many changes with is fine. But if you don't get results, and you started the season with those games against London City Lionesses and West Ham, maybe 2 games in which you could have played players who are now at a point where they've had no minutes whatsoever, no bedding in, you then leave yourself open to, well, if we do get injuries or we do need to rotate, we're going to have to put in players in much more high-pressure games who are coming in cold. And obviously, you only get into that position and that pressure because you don't pick up those points, but you leave yourself open to that. Now, like you said with Chelsea, it's worked out. Sonia has made quite a lot of changes in every game, but they keep winning. So you can say, oh, well, it was a bit risky, but it worked out and everyone's picking up minutes. Maybe the team's a little bit disjointed, but it will continue to find its rhythm and they'll only kind of get better. Whereas Arsenal, they're starting from this point where they don't have the time now they're playing catch up a little bit, and I think that is definitely an issue, and probably as well for maybe a more experienced younger manager. It's her first like head coach role as well. She's trying to figure out how to manage that squad. Like, that's a lot of pressure, a lot of players who want to play, some senior international experienced players who were part of that Champions League squad, other players who were brought in younger with the intention of that this is going to be their path. You've fought off other clubs to sign them, and here they are not getting any minutes. It's a big challenge, and they don't have time.
I think the other advantage that Chelsea have, though, is that they have a striker who's in a lot of form. And I think this has been kind of continually Arsenal's problem, is that they've still not pinned down someone who you're going to say they are going to score in 18 of your 22 games this season. And, like, I don't know if Aggie Beaver-Jones's run is going to carry on going, but, like, if you've got someone who you're like, she's going to score in this game, you go into matches feeling like you're already 1-0 up. And like Chelsea have had it in the past, obviously, with Kerr, and they've kind of fallen on their feet, I think, in terms of producing a player who looks as good as Beaver Jones. But she's been like this ever since she got into the Chelsea team. Like, she does just score when you play her, and I feel like someone like Russo, like, she does offer Arsenal so much, but I kind of just feel like I come back to the same thing every season, where I'm like, it doesn't need to be Russo who is that player, but we kind of know that she's not that player at this point, right? Who is it who's gonna like show up and like every single match score? Like, is that going to be Smith? I don't know, because she's not that kind of same box presence, and she's not going to get the same. She offers more. She doesn't need to be that player, but I just think I'm still like, who is the goal scorer? Because I think it just changes your mentality as a team. And in the game against Villa, like it was just that, like, Arsenal couldn't take their chances. They couldn't carry on generating chances, especially in the second half when Villa made changes, and therefore you leave yourself open to the equaliser. Look, Chelsea, you could argue Chelsea put themselves in the same position against Leicester, but I think Leicester are not as good as Villa. So it's like a different level, and Villa did equalise against Chelsea, but Chelsea still eventually went on and scored 3 goals in that game. So
yeah, we obviously talked a lot about Arsenal on Monday's show, so I want to move us on to Manchester City, Becky, because since they lost that opening game at Stamford Bridge to Chelsea, they've kind of quietly gone on this nice run. A new manager under Andre Yeglert, but City fans are really excited about what they're seeing, and maybe because they haven't been necessarily on those big ticket games again up until now, I think they've gone a little bit under the radar. Also, maybe because they're not in Champions League, people are talking about them less. But there has, I think, been a lot of attention on Arsenal dropping points, Manchester United playing well, Chelsea doing what they're doing. That I don't think we've given perhaps City enough attention for how they've gone on a good run and had some tough moments, especially I think in that Brighton result. They did have to kind of show that they had a bit more kind of they had to turn the game around, right? And I think for City, I've been impressed with what they've done, also with some injuries.
I went really big on City last year. I was like, this is it. This is their year. They're going to do it. I feel every time I'm talking about a team in today, I feel just like a bit disillusioned. I'm like,
you don't trust anyone.
I don't trust anyone.
I don't think any team started the season that well.
I don't feel like excited about them in maybe the same way I did last year. I mean, maybe that obviously was wrong and maybe naive. So maybe now I'm being like...
Also, it's still early in the season.
Yeah.
You can't necessarily read that much. I mean, we're getting this really big title race weekend quite early on, so you're having to try and think about what this means, what could the repercussions be. They could both be 0-0 draws, and then we've kind of got nothing to say,
I still don't think,
right?
even if City got like a really big win this weekend, that I would be like, oh yeah, this is their statement. This is like them laying down a marker and being like, we're here, we're competing for this league. I still don't think I would be like, okay, I'm taking notice. And I don't know why that is.
Wow, you're such a hater.
I know. I'm sorry, I've got hate in my heart today. I think
I've really enjoyed watching
them.
Sorry,
maybe I'll hug Kate. She'll make me feel a bit softer.
I've really enjoyed watching them. And I think having Grace Clinton has been like such a great addition. And I mean, there were even moments in that Chelsea game on the first day where they looked good. But I think we're seeing things come together. A player who was getting a lot of praise from the weekend, and we haven't yet talked about, is Laura Blinkilde-Brown. And obviously she arrived, extremely talented player, got her from Villa, but I felt like we haven't necessarily seen enough of her yet to feel like, okay, what role is she going to play in this team? But at the weekend, it felt like a real kind of arrival of what she can bring to City, which is especially important because I think under Taylor, we saw the options become like look so deep, as in we're bringing on Murphy and much younger players and almost like leapfrogging someone like Blinkilda Brown. And now I'm excited about how she can play a role as a consistent player and also improve on her development, because she's someone who, from an England perspective or just in general, like she's a very talented player. And the more we get to see her consistently rather than just being in and out of that City team, I think is exciting.
Yeah, and I mean, I think part of that is that the way Jeglis is looking to reconstruct the City midfield, like we're not going to see Yui Hasegawa just sit at the base of the midfield all the time now. And I think that is something that City needed to evolve, because it become too easy for teams to sort of just put a player on her and sort of limit their ability to progress the ball. And so I think the reconfiguration of that makes sense. I think it's obviously taken Bunny a little bit of a while to get into the season, but it feels like she's starting to get going. They obviously are already sort of dealing with some injury issues, so that's going to affect things. But I think for City this season, like you have to kind of see it as a transition season to a certain extent, but also like a bit of a free hit. You don't have the Champions League. You get to play in the Subway Cup, which I actually think is really, really useful if you've got a new manager coming in, whereby you can see more of like your whole squad. You can work on stuff against kind of slightly lesser opposition, obviously, and it kind of takes the pressure away. And then obviously not going to have that same high level games that all of their title rivals are. But I also think at the same time, like kind of what you want to focus on is, I think always with a new manager coming in, and maybe Sonia's just created kind of silly standards on this, but like you almost want to be thinking about season 2, like, or like getting ready for season 2, which maybe seems silly and a bit premature. But I've like really enjoyed patches of City, and there are other points where you're like, this team looks totally disjointed, which is like understandable in terms of like moving away from the like quite structured positional play that Taylor used.
There was such quite rigid foundations, which we're now seeing Taylor kind of try and take to Liverpool. There were very solidified structures, and this is a little bit more kind of free and freestyly, and I love seeing Hasegawa get higher up the pitch. I think we talked about especially the second goal, the winner that they scored against Brighton, that team goal was fantastic. And she can play such an exciting part higher up the pitch and be involved in those sort of movements and moments, but they need to think about how that then impacts them defensively. I know already people are already thinking about Bunny Shaw, Katie Reid matchup on the pitch on Saturday. We've seen in the past Lotte Wubben-Moy actually match up against Bunny Shaw really well. She's kind of been one of those big moments for her in the WSL, and it's going to be a real test for an exciting, talented young defender against one of the best strikers the WSL has ever seen, and could be another kind of elevation of how she's had such a breakout season so far. We're only a few games in, right? But like, given when she came into the team to replace Leah Williamson, she's really kind of established herself, and a good performance against Bunny or the opposite will probably, count for a lot.
Yeah, I've really been impressed with Reid. I wrote about her from the Villa game, even though Villa equalised. Because I do think she's really offered Arsenal a lot in terms of the way they can push other defenders up. Because they trust Reid to cover a lot of space. She's really quick. And it will be interesting to see what she looks like up against Bunny, or like how Arsenal choose to defend against Bunny, because they have, against Manchester United, they were kind of like, we're going to leave Reid one-on-one with Mallard, and we back Reid to get the better of that duel. And I think she did, even if at points she maybe, kind of skirted close to the line. But she looks really confident, even with the ball at her feet. And like, what I like is that even when she has made errors, which is normal, she doesn't look fazed by that. But it will kind of be interesting to see what Slager's kind of takes from the Villa game for the City game. I mean, obviously it is very different, but Villa, I think, certainly against Chelsea, and I think in the second half against Arsenal, their approach to the press was really notable and did cause pressure for both of those teams. And I think that's something City have looked a lot more aggressive on this season. So it'll be interesting to see how that affects. And then, Tim Stillman wrote a really good and interesting article, I thought, about Arsenal's ball progression issues without Williamson in the team, and whether that is something whereby you need to have Moy come in and play, or whether you can reconfigure the midfield to get Kyra Cooney-Cross to come and play. I don't think Slager's going to do either of those things over the weekend, but I think it is true that is something that Arsenal are currently missing out on as a result of the way the team are being set up right now. Obviously, the Williamson injury is a Williamson injury. They can't do anything about that, but it's clear that neither Catley nor Reed is going to pass the ball in the way Williamson is, and they're sort of also missing out on that a little bit further forward. But yeah, I think it's going to be a really good game. Chelsea United, I feel not super excited about, just because
you're not excited to go to the Progress and Unity.
Unity. No, I am
with Unity.
I'm excited
Stadium.
to go. I always love to go watch Chelsea.
Is Progress sorry, I get it wrong every time. Is Progress with Unity Stadium in the trial? The alcohol trial.
Oh yes, I think it is.
I think we have
Progress with Unity and beer.
I am working, sadly, in case my work are listening. But just because I feel like, firstly, because Chelsea kind of have an 100% record, I'm not going to say they can afford to drop points, but I don't think it'd be the end. I don't think it'd be like crazy if they drop points, especially given the way the performances are. Whereas City Arsenal, I feel like, I just think for Arsenal, they have to win this game, which is crazy to say 5 games in the season. But I don't feel like Chelsea or United, whether they win or lose this game, it will define.
I think that's going to be more, that Friday night game for both teams feels like a bit more of a low risk, because they've also they knowing that they're starting the Champions League campaign the week after. They know that, I'm not saying that no one's going to try and win the game, but both of them know that
a point would be pretty good for them.
A point would be all right.
Yeah.
And actually, I think United have shown that they are so defensively organised, although missing Millie Turner is huge, and I think Sandberg was ill but should be coming back. So they know that the risk for them will be how much space do they give up and how much do they commit further up the pitch. But they know that they can defend really well. And for Chelsea, it's about, okay, how are we going to try and break down and use that space? And we could end up seeing a bit of a kind of slogfest, I think, maybe. But the game on Saturday, I think, could be pretty interesting, because I do think we'll see probably from City a similar maybe approach that Villa made with that really aggressive press. I know Max was writing about the cutback too, about how Daphne van Dumselaar was just being forced all the time to either take too many touches and then get caught under pressure, or having to kick long, and then
and she's someone who's not had a great start to the season as well, which I think again then creates anxiety, basically.
And then you're turning over the ball instantly, because if Russo can't pin it and hold it up, which she's great at, but she can't do that every single time if she's got players around her, you're then losing the ball under more pressure. And actually we saw Villa get opportunities from that, and when you're playing a team like City, who are going to have a lot more quality to do that and be able to press those defenders aggressively, I agree with you. I think Slagers should make a change, but probably won't make a change, and that's going to be really interesting, because they have to get a result on Saturday.
I think it's really interesting to look at the difference between Bonpastor's first season and Slager's first season, where they've obviously both won something. Obviously, Slager's had, when did he get sacked?
October.
Most of a season, but the difference between maybe the way that fans would feel about those managers, I feel like Sonia, it's I feel like, oh well, it's okay, she's figuring it out, but maybe that is also because they're winning. Whereas if you win the Champions League, it's kind of that was crazy, but you need to show form in the league.
Well, the two things that stand out to me is expectations after the win Champions League are huge. People are expecting to compete,
which is maybe
a poison chalice.
Yeah, which is maybe unfair, and I think it is hard. And obviously, it's not Slagers' fault that it's been so long since Arsenal won the league. But I think obviously, and it's very similar to Chelsea in the Champions League. Obviously, Chelsea's Champions League thing is a bit different because they've never won it, and Arsenal have had plenty of past success in leagues and stuff like that. But, I think there is an anxiety around the club, like you say, that, everyone going on a great run in the Champions League, and they were brilliant in those games that they needed to be, is an achievement in itself, but it's very different, I think, to a league season. And, you know, like, I say this from like a Chelsea men's perspective. I've seen, you know, rubbish Chelsea men's teams win a Champions League. I'm not saying Arsenal are rubbish.
I have too,
but
and
like,
it boiled my noggin.
But yeah, exactly. And sometimes that happens, but like, the Champions League is my favourite trophy. But like, you get a different sense of pride when your team wins the league because of that consistency over a whole year.
Cup competitions are very different, and what you can deliver in those knockout or those two-leg moments are that's a whole other problem that you need to solve, and a whole other way that you need to play, and to finesse that is its own amazing achievement. But yeah, it's very different. And the other thing that stands out for me is I think Arsenal are very much a confidence and momentum team. And if they can't build that and carry them through, that's what they did in the Champions League. We even saw that with Jonas Alderweireld, right? Is they had that mentality of backs against the wall, dig in, go on these runs, let that carry us, use the emotion. Without that, without Sleggers being able to build that with this group who look a bit low on confidence, that's a big challenge for them, I think. If they can't get their momentum, they're such a momentum-driven team.
It's also just so mentally different of like a cup competition. It's like when you're out, you're out. And like, that's it, it's done. And like when you are still in it, there is still a chance, like however slim that chance might be. But it's like if they lose at the weekend, this weekend, they're not out of it, but it is just like a bit of a damp, whatever it's called. What's the word?
Damp squib.
Thank you, yeah. Because it's like, oh, well, like it's such an uphill battle to take anything from the league, and that really plays into the momentum of it, because like they really lose it. Whereas in a cup competition, like it's, you know, and until you are gone, you're still in it. But it's so different with the league.
And I think this is the other thing that maybe becomes then Slager's challenge, which is more of a psychological thing than I think a tactical thing. Although, you know, I think as we've discussed, there are, you know, tactical issues with this Arsenal team. Is, okay, like you said, maybe for a while now, Arsenal have been a team that have really, you know, been able to find a lot of emotions, particularly in the Champions League. So, but in high stakes cup games. But you need to be able to find that drive and desire in every league game. And I think that was the feeling in that second half against Villa, was there was maybe this sense that Arsenal had played a really good first half. They were clearly the better team. Villa weren't really doing anything. And it was like they were sort of just patting themselves on the back. And it was almost like that was job done. And then Villa make the change and bring Hansen on, and they sort of set up a bit differently. And it felt like Arsenal just, again, kind of just drifted through the second half and were a bit like, oh, well, sort of Villa probably have been a bit better now and we've been a bit worse. But they've not scored. And then you get to the end and they do score. And I think that was just the feeling of like, yeah, Arsenal drifting through. And maybe that comes from the fact that they've, in loads of home games, scored a huge amount of goals. Like their Emirates home record has been insane in the league. And maybe there was just a feeling like they will get more goals. And I sat there and I was like, Arsenal won a lot. Like, they will just score more goals. But it just didn't happen.
In an ideal scenario, the complacency from Saturday will be the wake-up call that stops that happening again.
And to that extent, you know, when we're talking about if they don't win on Saturday and maybe they're like looking, especially because they'll know, right? If Chelsea have won on Friday night, they could be 6 points. If they don't win, they could be 6 or 7 points behind Chelsea by Saturday lunchtime, which is crazy. So they will have a good understanding, but you know that might make Saturday become a cup game for them. So
and that could energise them. Yeah, that could turn it for them. Okay. A lot of preview chat, a lot of philosophical discussions about where everyone's going, about why Becky hates City and United, or has trust issues. Why Becky has trust issues.
I'm really feeling it this season. I'm like, I just don't trust any of you to do anything to beat Chelsea.
I think
I'm done. I'm over it. Chelsea are going to win again, and it's going to be boring.
I think the more important thing to say is it's October, but what's really interesting is even though it's October, we could have some interesting permutations already come Saturday afternoon.
How early was it last time that we were like, oh, because it was really early last time that we were like, Chelsea are going to win this.
Feb?
Well, I kind of thought when we beat Arsenal at the Emirates.
When was that?
Done. That was the day Alderweireld got sacked. Or sorry, he resigned after that game.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so it was pretty early. It was October then. Okay. Well, before we wrap, some predictions for this weekend?
I think Chelsea United will be a draw. And Do I think Arsenal will beat City? I feel like I just talked myself into thinking that Arsenal will beat City. But I don't know.
Because we build it as a cup final and then that changes the
Yeah,
dynamic.
I know. I really can't call that. And I found City quite hard to judge, generally.
Okay, well, I'm going to go 2-0 City.
You think City will win?
And Friday night?
Wow, we really can't.
I think Arsenal will win.
We can't have one
I'm going
prediction between us.
Arsenal.
Okay, I just think Chelsea will find it from somewhere, and I think it will be like 2-1. What do you think, Kate? Yeah, she thinks Chelsea are going to win.
I'm going to
Kate.
be really boring and say both games will be draws.
I wanted
That
to
would
say
be
that,
so
but I didn't want to be so
boring.
No, I don't mind if it was like a very chaotic.
Entertaining draws.
What was that, City Arsenal? Was that like a 3-3 draw?
Yeah,
last
we've had some
season?
good
I love a
ones.
chaotic draw.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Friday night might be
Chelsea
dull.
United is always stinky.
I
Unless
think-
it's either Chelsea wins 6-0 or it's like the most boring game you've ever
Yeah,
sat
I
through.
do fear for Friday night.
And last year they were both boring.
I think Friday night could be
Yeah, but it's also
tough.
it's got that Friday night WSL energy. Like, ooh, what's going to happen? Ooh, everybody's
Saturday-
drinking beers in the stands. It's going to
Saturday,
go crazy.
I think could be quite chaotic and fun. And also, we've had some good joy Saturday, maybe Sundays actually, where you get the old random Alex Greenwood sent off for Descent vibes.
I do like
So good.
I do like a big game at the Draw.
There's always a bit of chaos in the air at the Joy Stadium, actually.
I know. It didn't feel the same playing at the Etihad.
I really like the Joy Stadium.
Yeah.
Me too, actually.
Yeah, you liked it. They had that little beer bit.
I liked it even when we lost.
Yeah.
There you go. That's the power of
got
the
the
Joy
Astor across the
Stadium.
road.
Maybe it's because I know now that we still win. You know, when you like retroactively
Yeah.
feel better about it.
Oh, because you still win the
Do
league.
you?
Well, we lost 2-0 in the Champions League.
Oh,
there,
sorry, in the Champions
but then
League, yeah,
we
you
won
still
3-0.
won.
Yeah.
Before we go, a listener has sent in an amazing find on Ollie Harder's Wikipedia.
What?
So Ollie Harder, former West Ham boss, we've spoken
I
about
think I
him on
might
the
know what
show.
this is.
Scroll down to personal life section.
The best section.
Earlier this year, he appeared on the Norwegian edition of Bake Off.
No, I have. I have seen
Did you
this
guys
as well.
know this?
Yeah.
Did you not know this?
No, I didn't.
I follow his
His baking
cooking
page.
account.
Yeah, his cooking account.
Wow, I'm so out the loop.
You
guys.
are.
Yeah.
Okay, well, this was like
But
meant to
thank
be a
you,
big
listener.
exclusive.
I'm so sorry. I was so excited for your big reveal, and we both knew it.
The listener sent in asking to be a non, which is hilarious. But
Maybe it was
said-
Ollie.
Who wants to be found stalking
Said,
Ollie Harder's Wikipedia?
Me.
They felt like it was very counter-press coded.
Yes.
Yes.
Which
for
it of course
sure.
is.
Shall we see if he wants to come on the show?
We should do a baking episode.
We could
episode.
so
Get a
in the
kitchen in the studio.
Get do like a morning segment of like a breakfast.
I mean, this whole setup is very daytime TV.
Yeah.
So if we
You
had
in
a
that
kitchen,
jumper on
me and
Monday.
my roll neck on Monday, if we had a kitchen here, Ollie Harder baking, wow, chef's kiss. Okay, we'll work on it with the Spotify bosses, but for now, we'll be back on Monday talking about these huge games in the WSL. See you then.